Wake up, Zach! What do you think you're doing? Get up now.
Zach Tyler felt someone kick the bench he was lying on. Dazed, he opened his eyes and sat up. He looked around, frowning. He was in the lobby of the Brigham Hospital in Lanesville, Indiana. The bright fluorescent lights shining off the gleaming white walls around him made him dizzy. He shut his eyes against the glare for a moment and listened to the hustle of footsteps rushing past. When he opened them again, his usually bright eyes were dull. He murmured,
"What's going on here? What is this place? Where am I?"
A nurse in a white uniform looked at him with disdain as he tried to figure out his situation. She said angrily,
Stop sitting around. We have a seriously injured patient to attend to. You need to get up right now.
She muttered under her breath,
What an idiot. If he hadn't offended Dr. Williams in the first place, we wouldn't have to work the night shift with such a useless intern like him.
Ignoring the nurse's comments, Zach staggered to his feet and followed her along the corridor. His mind was struggling to make sense of two conflicting realities, making him feel even dizzier. As he stumbled along, the two worlds began to converge, and he finally figured out what was going on. Many lifetimes ago, he was born as Harrison Palmer. He trained as an herbalist, learning how to treat people with natural remedies, and was moderately successful. One day, while collecting medicinal plants in the mountains, he stumbled across an herb he had never seen before. Curious, he tasted it, and after consuming it, he realized that his body and mind were greatly enhanced. As the years went by, he became aware that his life expectancy had also increased. As a result, although he wasn't a talented herbalist by nature, Harrison began to hone his medical knowledge and skills, practicing his trade and learning from experts. He soon became a famous doctor known as the Herbal King. He founded his own clinic, Miraculous Hall, so that he could treat more patients. War broke out, and he soon found himself living in tumultuous times. He donated all his savings and used his medical skills to attend to countless civilians and soldiers. Unfortunately, he was killed by the enemy while providing medical treatment at the front line. Perhaps it was due to the special herb, but Harrison found that when his body died, his soul remained, wandering aimlessly on Earth, until one day it entered the sleeping body of a young medical intern. Harrison's soul fused with Zach's, and he woke up in the hospital lobby.
Hurry up. You'll be responsible if anything happens to the patient.
The nurse, whose name was Nancy, nudged him again, impatiently. Zach was fully alert now that both of his consciousnesses had merged. He didn't care for Nancy's attitude, but he followed her regardless, as he could tell she was worried. He was a student in his senior year in the School of Traditional Medicine at Ludington Medical College, where he was top in his class. He excelled in both theoretical knowledge and hands-on practice. However, being both honest and stubborn, he had offended numerous people by reporting a case of bribery to the senior staff at his school. It was a serious matter involving some of the lecturers and counselors, and as a result, his internship had been transferred from a large city hospital to a small countryside facility, Brigham Hospital. Zach didn't know what he had done to offend the hospital's chief resident, Dr. Caleb Williams, but the older man clearly disliked him. Caleb treated him badly, making him do all kinds of heavy or mundane work and making deductions from his salary for no clear reason. Lately, Zach had been assigned to the night shift for nearly a week without a break, and he was exhausted. Perhaps it was Zach's extreme fatigue, as well as their medical connection, that enabled Harrison to enter the young student's body and merge their souls. Whatever the reason, Zach was now both the Herbal King and an ordinary college student. A few steps further along the corridor, Zach saw a hospital bed at the entrance to the operating room. As he approached, he could see a young woman in a white dress lying on the bed. Even from a distance, he could see she was so beautiful that people would turn and stare when she was walking down the street. Moving closer, Zach was dismayed when he saw the young woman's face clearly, and he realized he recognized her. Her name was Vanessa Stevens, and she was widely considered to be the most sought-after woman in college. Although Zach had never spoken to her, he counted himself among her many admirers. However, at that moment, Vanessa's face was extremely pale. She had already lost consciousness, and there was a nasty impact bruise on her forehead, as if she had been struck by a heavy object. Setting aside his complex emotions, Zach quickly stepped forward. The instincts of the herbal king took over, and he grabbed Vanessa's cold, slender wrist to feel for a pulse and begin his examination. At the same time, he turned to Nancy, who was standing next to him.
Tell me quickly.
He began assertively.
How was the patient injured? And when was she admitted?
Nancy looked at him strangely. Zach was usually passive and submissive, so it was very out of character for him to speak to her in such a forthright manner. She responded angrily.
Who do you think you're talking to? You're just an intern. You can't speak to me like that. Do you think that you're suddenly some great doctor?
He was surprised that Nancy would make such a fuss when a patient's life was in danger. It irritated him, and he almost growled at her.
This is a matter of life and death,
he said brusquely.
Please, control your temper.
Zach spoke with the demeanor of the herbal king, and Nancy was surprised to feel her cheeks start to burn. She didn't dare to vent her anger anymore, so she hurriedly replied,
The patient arrived 10 minutes ago. It seems that, she was involved in a car accident and sustained a head injury.
Where's the patient's family?
Zach asked.
And I believe Dr. Williams is on duty tonight. Where is he?
The young man who brought her in is making a phone call outside.
Nancy replied. She then began to stammer nervously.
And Dr. Williams is... Well, he went out because he had something to do. I've already paged him.
She said, trailing off uncertainly. Zach felt rising anger. Caleb had obviously left the hospital while he was on duty. Suddenly, Vanessa's body started to tremble. Bright red blood began oozing from her nostrils, and her face turned even paler.
She's in serious danger,
Zach said. He frowned as he tried to establish exactly what was happening. Vanessa was unconscious due to the trauma to her head. Zach quickly deduced that she had severe internal bleeding, and that the hemorrhaging was compressing the nerves in her brain. Her life was in danger, and the only way to save her was to operate and remove the blood clot immediately. Zach knew he couldn't wait. He turned to push the hospital bed into the operating room. Nancy was horrified. She grabbed the side of the bed and stopped him.
What do you think you are doing?
She screeched.
Not one step more, intern.